So I am a sex addict, right? I am a person in recovery with sexual addiction. So you would think, right, by that terminology, by that logic, that I am a sex crazed human being. I am in a committed, healthy relationship, right? Which is actually like one of the bigger myths. Like,
Totally.
I am okay with having sex once a week.
Yes, and I'm going to toot your own horn here because you've grown and operate today in a place of a decent amount of emotional intelligence and maturity and grace and sobriety, and you know what I mean. Physical intimacy is one element of many,
Of so many.
Right.
It's the cherry on top of all of the other intimacies combined. It means nothing if I don't have this litany of all of these other intimacies.
Without question. And to me, probably because of my experience as a recovering addict, I place less emphasis on it. It's still important than emotional intimacy.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Before we jump into today's special episode, I do want to give a shout out to my sponsors for the show, Begin Again Institute out in Boulder, Colorado. If you or anyone you know or love is struggling with sex or porn addiction, definitely go check them out. Their information will be in the description below. Definitely go check them out. And as always, I want to plug my very own coaching business. I've been doing this on the last couple episodes. I'm just throwing it out, letting people know, hey, I am taking on private clients as far as my recovery coaching goes. Whether you're in recovery for substances or sexual addiction, I can help with either one of those. And I am only taking male clients at this time, but definitely I got some openings. So reach out, email me at nolionshere@gmail.com. So on today's show, big episode, man. So this episode is 100. This is the 100th episode of No Lions Here, the podcast, man. And I was thinking about it, and I was just like, there's nobody else that I would rather have on for my 100th episode than you, Jeff. So I was like, all right, I got to ask him. I got to come on. So please welcome back to the show. Welcome back to No Lions Here. Mr. Jeff, my sponsor, one of my best friends, man. Someone who has been a mentor. Honestly, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today in my own recovery if I didn't have you. You know, you've been a big guiding light for me. I've learned so much from you. Just the relationship alone, man. You've taught me what it's like to be vulnerable with somebody, another man, not just somebody, but another man in general. Something that I've been so afraid of doing, not knowing how to do it with the lack of father figure in my life, man. Like, you know, you've taught me a lot, man. And it's just been so awesome to walk this journey beside you, man, and know that, like, I have you. You've seen me at my lowest. You've seen me at some of my highest, and you've seen me at my lowest, man. And, like, you've been there every time, man, no matter where I'm at, to, like, pick me up and carry me, because you've carried me through some times, man, that I didn't think that I was ever going to be able to get through. So just thank you, man. And again, like I said, I couldn't think of a better guest to have on for the 100th episode. So welcome back to No Lions Here, Jeff.
Thank you, Alex. I'm very proud of you, and I'm proud to be here. Look at us starting heavy. You hit me, man.
Yeah, I had to, like, I figured, not that like I had to, but you know, this milestone, right? Just where I'm at my recovery, you know, our relationship, like, it all means so much to me. Like, this is a really big deal. And like, I'm trying to treat it like a big deal. It is, you and I both know we're bad. I'll keep it to me. I'm bad at giving myself credit for these milestones.
Amen. Actually, pumping the brakes here just a smidge, right? I wanted to, like, make a joke after that setup, and because I felt it, you felt it, I saw you feeling it, and didn't. And so that's growth today. It's like that was real, right? Mm-hmm. My sponsor often stops me in a share with him where I will blow by or gloss over some sort of accomplishment that he has heard me totally discredit, right? Mm-hmm. He'll say, like, well, slow down there. Like, you didn't give that any space at all. Same thing with painful feelings. Actually saw one of our friends the other day, and I want to normalize feeling uncomfortable emotion. That's like getting choked up, almost crying there, right? Because we, for a variety of crap reasons, like, that's just I'm a man's man. I shouldn't do that or something,
Rub some dirt on it.
Tuesday night, Andy started crying and he didn't know he was going to start doing it. Sorry, I didn't just say his name, but he would own that. And he, in a comedic way, was like, and pulled the plane up and started to make a joke and started to laugh. And I said, hey, like, why is it so hard to just let that, because that's real. Like, let that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Yep.
That's real, right?
And like, that's how you move through it, right? Like us taking a minute to acknowledge that emotion is there and not make a joke about it. Like that could be the difference between me having an uncomfortable rest of my night versus me being like, man, I'm kind of at peace with myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like taking the time to actually, oh, wow. Oh, yep. There it is. Like I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to try to sit in it because as you and I both know that like as quickly as they come on, they will leave because my brain's like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? So like just taking those 2 minutes to like let out a couple tears or just really feel it again, really like it could be the difference between a good rest of the day or an uncomfortable rest of the day.
And again, not to sound hokey, but it was beautiful. What you said about me and our relationship and how you feel about me was a gift from God. It was just beautiful. And I love you. And thank you. The carrying thing, like we carry each other. Like if anybody listening out there, if you're not carrying anybody or being carried, I'd urge you to look at that, we talked one time about the Boys Town, the statue, like the little boy, right? He's carrying, he's like, no, Lord, he isn't heavy. Because he's my brother. You're my brother. I will carry your ass all the time.
I love that. And I still I use that in here in some of my teachings is like, I need to be carried, and I reference that statue, right? Of what is it? Boys Town, Illinois, right? Is that Illinois?
Ohio.
Okay. And like there's a statue of the boy carrying his brother. And what the saying is,
he said, no, Lord, he isn't heavy. He is my brother.
Yeah. And
I might have tweaked that, but you're not heavy. You've never been heavy to carry. No. It's been a pleasure.
And, so much of what we hear in the program is like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a burden. I was going to call you, but I don't want to be a burden. Who said, did I say you were a burden? Who said you were a burden?
But we're going to talk about that.
100%.
Yes. We know exactly where that's coming from.
So we're getting into it. And, you hear that a lot. And I'm guilty of saying, man, I'm just a broken record. I can't call Jeff again today. I've already called him today. And I'm going to talk about my ex-girlfriend again. He's going to get sick of hearing about this thing, Like, it's just, man, this thing, man, this thing between our ears. So, for this episode, man, I'm 100, man. I'm so blessed, man. I'm so grateful. Like, wow, 100 episodes.
It's a big deal. Congratulations.
It's a big deal, man. Triple digits. Man, it's so cool. But with this one, I wanted to do a topic, right? It's kind of funny because like every time you come on or I have somebody on like Ricky, everybody's like, oh, what are we going to talk about? And I'm always kind of like, does it matter? Like, I'm like, we're shooting from the hip, man. Let's just talk. But this one, I wanted to be a little bit more direct. I wanted to be a little bit more, hey, man, here's the topic, right? And I know I brought it to you, and we've had a couple conversations. We both kind of did some individual work. Thanks, ChatGPT, if you're listening. I know you are, so thank you. But so this episode 100, is focused around what is sexual addiction. What does sexual addiction actually look like? Breaking down some of the stigmas, some of the taboos, and talking about it, man, because there's not enough of this. And people think that sex addiction is all about the sex, when in reality, it actually has nothing to do with the sex.
I'd agree. Or very little. Not nearly as much as some people tend to think.
No. So we're gonna talk about some things, some interest. I think we're gonna get into some interesting conversations with this, and I'm excited for this one, man. Like, I'm excited. Again, I typically don't do these like, all right, topic episodes, but I like it, man.
Okay. I do want to qualify, if it's not obvious, I think it just deserves to be said that anything that I'm going to say, I'm not a therapist, not a doctor, I'm not a professional. I'm just a guy in 12-step program for sex addiction recovery who's had a whole bunch of therapy and has failed a lot in this for, and for whatever that's worth then, right? Is that my qualification? I don't know. But I just want to say this is my experience, strength, and hope, let's say.
Good disclaimer, because you are correct.
Right.
Neither one of us are therapists, psychologists, experts in the field. We're simply just two guys that are sexual addicts, and these are our experiences and what we've come to learn about ourselves and this
up to this moment,
this addiction.
Right. Stay tuned, right?
Up to this moment, yes, correct. And the opinions expressed here are solely of the ones that are sharing them.
Well said. Amen.
With that being said, let's
do it.
Let's start talking some shit.
Let's go.
So I was just gonna say, I almost don't like the term sexual addiction. I almost like the term intimacy disorder a little bit better. A lot of it's kind of funny I say that. I'm coming from this standpoint of oh, my videos won't get monetized because I'm talking about sexual addiction. But if I talk about intimacy disorder, maybe more people will be more likely to watch it. But again, I think that is the much better way of describing sexual addiction as an intimacy disorder.
I don't disagree with you. The label that has been assigned, I don't know who, when, where, what, but just kind of is now. We all accept it. It's been around for a long time. Doesn't do the condition justice. It leads to further a lot of ignorance and confusion and misunderstanding. I'll jump into, this is relatable. Our local group in St. Louis takes a meeting out to a treatment center for drugs and alcohol. We take a sexual compulsion, sex addiction meeting out there. It's fascinating to me to see the people that come in, and it's voluntary. You want to come out and see this meeting. You can either go to an AA meeting or you can go to this SCA meeting. And I'm telling you, half the time, the staff at the treatment center told me this to my face. They said, they come to your meetings because they don't want to go to the AA meeting. So they think it's stupid, right? They think it's just a big joke. It's fine. I said, I don't care. It's whatever. I don't care. I'm over and over again. We start to just talk, and it's an unconventional meeting because it's not a meeting per se, but it's just an informative, what we're going to talk about here, breaking stereotypes, misconceptions on what sex addiction is to the person who has no idea, has heard about it related to Hollywood scandals or, social media or something. And invariably every meeting, 1, 2, 3 people, you just see the gears turn and the light bulbs going off, the discomfort around that's landing closer than I wanted it to, or and it's really rewarding. Some people though come out with some really ridiculous questions, right? So we get, and I'm sure people out there can appreciate this. We get a lot of people that will say well, I like having sex. I like having a lot of sex. Does that make me a sex addict? Or one guy one time was like, I got 4 girlfriends. Does that make me a sex addict? And this gets complicated. And all right, let's scale it back here. All right. So I think a good starting point, Alex, and please weigh in when the muse strikes you, is this is just my opinion, right? Sex addiction is not about what I tell people, penetration, right? Sexual intercourse, in all its variants, the physicality necessarily. And that's important to know because I think people who aren't in it and walking the walk think that that's what we're talking about. We're just running out there trying to have sexual intercourse with everybody. And that is not the case.
Or people that, so one of the things too about sexual addiction is for me anyway, in my addiction is, if you'll have me, I'll take it. The standards, right? These are not normal dating standards. This, for me, it was, hey, if you'll have me, if you give me attention, I'll take it.
Amen. And in fact, piggybacking on that, what you just said actually segues into what I think the core of sex addiction is. For an individual to say consciously or just have the belief system of, if you'll have me, I'll be sexual with you, right? What that belies is what you and I were talking about, a shame-based belief system of self, right? Mm-hmm. A healthy person who has a healthy, loving relationship with themselves would not do that. No duh, right? We're not okay with ourselves. If you don't know that, it's so obvious. If you keep coming back for a while, you're seriously not okay with myself. Yeah. And it is it is an attempt to remedy that situation, this shameful core belief system of self that I, as I am not enough, right? And to be seen and heard and to receive attention, if you want to call it an intimacy disorder, right? How I connect, how I attach with other people. The shame that I feel about myself propels me to want to attach and connect with other people as a quote unquote solution to that inner discomfort, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know how to do that, and it's warped, and it's like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And so again, it's
short circuited.
Through the sexual interactions. We talk about intensity, all sorts of things. We'll get into that further. But so it's a very large umbrella that a lot of different behaviors reside underneath. Or I use the visual often of a hand with 50 fingers on it, right? Whereas I'm an alcoholic and I drink alcohol, and that constitutes whether I'm sober or not.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't drink alcohol today, I'm sober today. When we're dealing with, well, we know sex, love addiction, food, it's a process addiction, right? Yep. So I think that inherently makes it different and a little more complicated because we're dealing with human processes, natural processes.
And part of one of those processes, and this is, you know, with the sexual addiction, is like sex is, right, we're sexual beings, right? Go back to our ancestors, right? How did they survive? They survived. How did they pass on their legacy? By procreating. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you procreate? Well, you have to have sex. And there is some science around that, like, sex is equated with survival in the brain. So your brain is getting rewarded. Good job. You had sex. That equals survival. That means you're fit enough, right? You provide enough for somebody else to come along and say, yes, I want to sleep with you. I want to have your offspring. And so then the brain rewards it with dopamine, right? The dopamine, you get rewarded with dopamine. Now sex is now survival. So again, our brain is so primitive in these ways that, like, we see these things as a need to live.
Yes, and again, I'm not my area of expertise, but that's I'll just say for us, this is where I'll go. I believe that's true, correct, on a deep level, right? So much so that it's beyond my pay grade, and I don't need to care about whatever deep ingrained coding as a species, you know, doesn't. Here's what I know. Again, my capacity to lie to myself is limitless. So I'm a weasel and I'm full of shit and I'm dishonest with myself. And I take that piece of information, and this lets me know I'm a sex addict. And I say to myself, well, this is actually just human evolution at its finest. I'm just supposed to procreate and spread my seed across the world.
Spread my seed. This is what I do. You can't get mad at me.
Right. So if I'm bringing that up into my consciousness, now granted, my step one experience has smashed all that. And I know that's full of shit, right? But for people that are listening, perhaps like, that actually makes sense. That's what I'm doing, right? Cool. If that's working for you and you have not, you know, the bell has not tolled for you yet, then you're going to keep on rocking that way. I ran out of time and I saw that that's not true, right? It's not true. A bunch of painful experiences smash that, okay? And there's in this is, again, I think a no-duh statement, but it's not. And it is about one's capacity to be honest with themselves. You're telling, now here's what I would challenge anybody with. You want to go have sex. You want to, like, blah, 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 right? Whatever it is that you want to do in the moment sexually. Pause for a second and just do a quick scan. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on with you? Any shame buzzing? I got a buddy that uses the term fluoresces. I like that. Like and again, this is where you have to be honest with yourself, right? We're going to lie to ourselves and be like, I'm fine. She's sitting there. She's really pretty. Or I'm lonely and I'm going to get on an app and I'm single. So what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. I can do that. Or, you know, millions of people look at pornography or the nut clarity. We hear that one all the time. Like, that's totally okay, right? All of these things. Here's, I want to backtrack. I'm going to tie it in. I'm sorry. So in St. Louis, there happens to be a lot of meetings around Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. My home group meeting is a meeting of Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, and it's a fine group. But honestly, I don't care if you go to SLAA, SAA, you know, SPA. I don't care, right? But one of the things that I do believe in our newcomer packet or our preamble says this as a definition to what is our purpose here as SCA? And this is, I actually think, a consistent purpose around the majority of 12-step sexual addiction recovery groups aside from SA. Okay. And it is this. They go on to say, and this ties into the question of what is sex addiction. We are not here to repress our God-given sexuality. Rather, we want to learn how to basically implement it into our lives as a healthy element. The questions, so that it doesn't make unreasonable demands on our time and energy, place us in legal jeopardy, or endanger our mental, physical, or spiritual well-being. Now, I think there's a lot of very valuable data in that statement. And we've talked about this before, like hold that up to your behavior as a question, like, well, I'm a sex addict. Well, it's not doing this, it's not doing that, or what. But if it's, again, it's one's capacity to be honest with themselves. Is it making unreasonable demands on my time and energy? Am I spending a lot of money? Am I late for work? Am I up till 3 a.m. looking at pornography? Have I masturbated to the point of injury? Have I spent money? Is it a secret? Maybe it's just the toll of shame and self-loathing that I carry inside myself, and no one's ever caught me yet. No wife is crying. No wife is yelling. No girlfriend has thrown anything at me. I've gotten away with it, but yet it's eaten up my guts, right? I mean, it's like, you have to be honest with yourself eventually. And you're like, I don't like when I lie to her. I don't like being. Now, here's the thing. You and I both know, before I came here, there was a season or two or many where I was actually okay with that, and I could go to sleep at night.
I had this conversation with a client today, like, because he was talking about like the borderline personality disorder, right? He was like, man, my ex told me about, my borderline, and that's when I said, hey man, look, like, regardless of whatever you're dealing with, whatever it is, borderline personality disorder, autism, whatever it is, you're an addict, man. And then as an addict, we know how to compartmentalize. I could totally leave the ex-girlfriend's house, go sleep with somebody, come back and act like nothing happened, and get in bed, tell her I love her. And when she tells me, promise me you won't cheat on me, I say, yeah, I promise. Like, and then I'll roll over and I'll go to sleep. Compartmentalization, but again, and also too, because it says it in our readings, just like me, because they got it from AA, is even those with mental and emotional, what was it, grave emotional and mental disorders, have the ability to recover if you are honest.
It's pretty important.
It's a huge part of the program,
right?
Huge part.
So if you're even sniffing around this topic, or some whisper of honesty is chirping within you, a curiosity of like, I don't know, this could be me, or maybe it's someone in my life, I don't know. That's uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable, right? Change is uncomfortable, but
it is.
I'm going to read that part of the preamble, because I think this is, again, tying into what is sex addiction, right? And we're not therapists. And
also, real quick before you do that, now, if anybody reaches out to me and asking me if they're a sex addict, please know that I am not one to diagnose sexual addiction. I don't ever tell anybody, especially like, do you think? It's not my job to tell you that you're a sex addict.
Right.
My job is to say, well, take a look at that. See if there's anything. Take a look at the literature. If there's anything that jumps out at you, we can talk. Let's talk about it.
Right.
But it is not my job to diagnose anybody.
100%.
I can die. Look, I got it for myself. I know I am one, but I am not going to sit here and tell you are one.
Right.
That is not what I need to do. That's not my job.
We often have opinions, but we'll be quiet about it. But any of the fellowships, if you're truly curious, right? If you really are curious, any of them have on their websites, Google any of them. You could Google, how would I find out if I'm a sex addict?
There's the SAA.org has questionnaires. Right. SCA has questions.
Yes. They'll give you 12 to 20 questions.
Yes.
And if you're honest and you answer them, it's a prize you don't want to win. You're like, my ego and my shame and my low self-esteem
that test.
will want me to be like, yes, I got them all right, but
I didn't study for it at all.
Right, I didn't study for it all, but I checked all 15 boxes. Like, what is that? What do I win? Yeah, a lifetime of grueling recovery.
As we're laughing.
But again, if you're honest, I mean, again, so many of us come into a meeting, and what we're hit with first is identification.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if you have. Again, we're getting all over the map here, but if really you weren't sure, pop into a meeting sometime and hear somebody talking, and only you'll know this. Something will shift inside of you, and you will hear the truth, and you will never be the same again. And that's a great gift that you're receiving, and it's also one where, strap in, baby. because you can't go back to you can't go back to sleep. It's very difficult to do.
It really is. I've tried doing it. You can't.
Yeah. So I want to read something here. Again, I happen to say that our home group I'll show it up. Here's the Sexual Compulsives Anonymous basic text, and every 12-step group has their own basic text. This is a fine text. I'm not sitting here selling it. I have no affiliation with this group whatsoever. However, there is an introduction here written by Dr. Alexandra Katahakis. She's pretty renowned, up there with Patrick Carnes. I was telling Alex. Again, I'm not affiliated with her in any single way, but she put into words in the foreword a definition of what sex addiction is that me and my who's Jeff, nobody really, but it got the Jeff thumbs up. I thought she hit a home run here, and I just want to read it because I think it's pretty insightful. And we can dig into it. Yep. So this is what she writes. Sexual compulsivity, also known as sexual addiction, has its genesis in childhood neglect or emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. The ensuing wounds bequeath the sexual compulsive a shame-based sense of self that attempts to right itself through the distorted mime language of sex. In other words, the sexual compulsive, or sex addict, desperately seeks validation, love, and a place to belong through multiple disconnecting and emotionally harmful sexual experiences, further traumatizing and damaging their very sense of self. And when I read that, I was like, damn, that is, we talk about this all the time. The core belief of shame, I'm not okay, and where it comes from. The genesis is in neglect, abuse, trauma. I looked up that word. I knew what it was, but I just want to make sure. Bequeath, right? That's been given. The shame-based sense of self. We're walking around, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And I was telling Alex before we began recording this, she uses this, and I like the visual here. We're trying to right ourselves, right? Trying to stand up and walk straight and be okay through this distorted mime language. The visual of everybody kind of has a mime, and I'm knocking on some invisible glass wall and just trying to act the part when everybody else is just living and being normal, and I'm some sort of, anybody ever see the movie Coraline, and just this false world? It's not okay.
Well, it's interesting because like the mime almost implies like a mask, because like mimes put on a mask. When I think of a mime, I think of like that white face, right? But that's not actually their real face, right? That's part of the act, part of the costume, right? And as a sex addict, as an addict in general, right, we get really good at putting on masks.
Well, I'd expand on that thing. That's a great, really great point. We do get good at putting on masks because here's why. Because I don't have a face.
I don't like exactly who I am. Kind of back to that reading of like that shame-based sense of self.
Right. I'm going deep, but I'm like, if my core belief is of I'm not worthy and have no value. And again, for me personally, this stuff is so old, it could be pre-verbal, right? This is like, I'm 52 today, right? But I'm telling you, my core belief of self, and it's one of shame, and that I'm not okay, did not just kind of materialize when I was 37, as an example, right? I'm telling you, I was I don't know that I could put words to it. Sometimes this gets really deep, like people who are adopted or given evidence in infancy that perhaps it was an unwanted pregnancy, okay? We had a friend here recently talking about that. He had a belief system very deep that his mom did not want him, and had 2 or 3 pieces of data, but that were traumatic. Yeah. So if I believe that I'm not okay at 1, 2, 5, do I even have an identity of who is Jeff, right? That I would put a mask on. I don't.
I don't have that autonomy of self, as they like to call it, right? I don't know who I am.
Right. And so, so I'm trying to right that condition. Like, I don't know who I am. I'm not okay. And again, some people find cocaine. Some people find alcohol. Some people find whatever, compulsive gambling, and it seems to scratch that itch. But for those of us who are listening and who walk this walk, I found that the distorted mime language of sex. Now, again, we're going to pause here for a second. Sex, 3 letters. She does not write that meaning sexual intercourse, right? Sex. It's about attention. It's about, Alex said, an intimacy disorder. I want you to notice me, love me.
I want to be seen.
I want to be seen.
To be heard.
Now, that could be sexual activity as well, but don't kid yourself and think that's exactly
could just
what
be,
that
getting an emoji, right? We've talked about this, right? the energy, that emoji from a female to a response to one of my text messages, what that does to us.
Exactly.
Right? That lights it up. Something as simple as that.
Mhm.
Jeff, you even joked one time, I remember this early on when I very first met you, man. You even joked about like that woman-shaped hole will get inflamed or get lit up if she sends me a poopy.
I believe I did say that. I was trying to humorously make the point that it does, there's an intensity in that. Well, in that moment, I'm getting attention.
Yep.
Okay. Right. So
100%.
the wounds, the shame wounds seem to be treated most effectively and completely, although that's not true, when I have received attention from a woman. This is the language that I use to you, Alex, a lot. I desperately want a woman. And I also want to pause here real quick. I'm using that language very lazily. Gay, straight, none of it. I don't care. It doesn't matter in the least. Okay.
No.
So I want that to be known. In my case, a woman basically, by interacting with me and seeing me, giving me some kind of attention, a poop emoji, right? That serves as a mirror reflecting back to me that I have some sort of value and worth.
Yep.
Now, I didn't know that, but I do today. And it's better than Christmas morning, right? That's it. It's like, okay. I had some experience with that probably when I was, I don't know, 10, 12, in a mix of very formative years. Now, I already had the shame core of self, for sure. I was a sex addict. This I think deserves to be noted. I believe people are sex addicts, again, lazy term, long before they ever even hit puberty or go through any sort of pubescent maturation, hormonal changes. It's like it's in your brain. Before I ever had kissed a girl or had sexual intercourse or whatever, I'm telling you, I was straight up the desperate quality of my need. And the solution for it being the affections and attention of a woman was cemented very firmly in place when I was 9, 10 years old. That's just my experience, though.
Yeah, that's always interesting because like I hear people talk like, "Oh, I knew I was a sex addict at 6 years old." For myself, I just don't know if I buy into that because I also believe that like some of these behaviors are learned through experimenting, which is part of everybody's childhood, part of everybody's adolescency is experimentation with sex, experimentation with drugs, and then the ones of us that have that trauma, the environment, where, during those explorational periods, we go, oh, wow, this really hits something. I don't know what it is, but man, this feels really good. Whether it's drinking a beer, smoking cannabis, finding that porn, right? It's like, oh, wow, this feels really good. And then my brain holds on to that and says, okay, now, right, if, man, I'm feeling anxious, right? Or man, I don't feel good enough. And well, what do I do to make it feel better? Oh, remember when I drank that beer? Let's try to go get a beer, or let's try to go get cannabis, or now let's look up some porn. And so I don't know. I have a different take on kind of when it sets in. I think that some of us, there is a predisposition to some of it, how we were raised, what we were brought up in, for sure.
Yeah, no question. I will say that, and not challenge, I totally respect that, right? And everybody's got their path in their journey, and here's your responsibility. Here's the bad news for you. You need to do inventory work and dig and peekaboo and look underneath all the rocks and find what you're going to find, right? Yep. Like you are you, and your story is unique, and your circumstances are unique, and that's wonderful. It's beautiful. And therein lies the work you got to do. I will say that the soil was fertile, like, right? The soil was fertile with need.
I totally agree with, like, I agree with that piece. I agree that yes, the soil was fertilized differently for young Jeff than maybe it was for young John over here that doesn't have an issue.
Yeah. And we get deep, like, I'm not blaming my parents or something, but we hear a lot though in therapy and recovery about like a parental attunement, even that forward what she wrote. I mean, this is by childhood neglect, right? Now, that's a strong word. Well, it is. And some of us experience it with a capital N, and some of us experience it with just like, lowercase n, or maybe this gets dangerous, though, because we talk about trauma. Trauma it ought not to be qualified by what happened to you. It's what happens within you. The event can be, it doesn't have to be like, I was in Vietnam, Alex, and people were shooting at me, and like, that's traumatic. Absolutely. But guess what? You can be traumatized by, stepping into a pothole and almost twisting your ankle and being scared.
And like I love to tell this story. Like there was a guy that I was in treatment with that, like, so on day 2, right, we're going around and we're talking about our traumas, right? And one of the guys, I don't know, he was in his 60s, and he said he brought up when he was 12 years old, he went to a dance, and the girl that he went with, they were dancing together, and she put her hands around his wrist and said something along the lines of like, wow, you got really dainty wrists. That was trauma to him.
Okay, without question.
That was trauma to him, right? And so like, you don't need these big, massive things. I love how you put that, because that just gave me a different perspective on it. Of it doesn't want to happen. It doesn't matter what happens to you; it happens within you,
Right?
Because everybody's, it all pops up in us differently. I love that visual though with that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to. Here's what's fascinating, but also complicating, and that is, to the outsider. How do I want to phrase this? I have my trauma, right? And you do too, everybody. But I it can be shared and not understood. The outsider could say like, well, it's not that big of a deal. You probably should just suck that up, or that you're overreacting, right? But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't follow those rules. If you had an experience with that, when she said, your wrists are dainty, I guarantee you that changed his life. Mm-hmm. The fact that he still remembers it today with clarity and has an emotional response to it when the memory comes up, okay? So it's a big deal. That wound does not respond to intellect. And the intellect here is saying like, well, dude, that's been 22 years ago. Yeah. And look at your wrist now. You
get over it, right?
You got to get a new band because it wouldn't even close anymore on your wrist. You know what I mean? It's like it's still occupying space. I want to share this story real quick because it's like this totally proves this point. I wish it was mine, but it's one of our very good friends that we love. He just had this awareness that, again, he did not believe he was a late pregnancy, arguably unwanted. And his mom made some comments when he was really little, and people around him, he was like 2, 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. And he had the sense through a couple of situations that his mom didn't love him. Truly, his mom didn't love him. Now we can say, well, that's not true, right? But he told the story. He said she was punishing him. He was acting up or something. Maybe he said something wrong. I don't know. But she put soap in his mouth. He had an older brother. His first time he ever had soap put in his mouth. And he was scared because he heard somewhere that soap was poison. And he believed that his mom was trying to kill him. Mm. See, we could be like, oh, that's funny. This guy was definitely serious, right? He's a child. He believes that his mom is trying to kill him. And he asks his older brother, is his mom trying to kill me? And he said, for whatever messed up reason, his older brother said, yeah, she is. Like, that was the answer, right? But it was terrible because in his young mind, and he was telling this story in group, and he didn't know it was coming. This was very powerful to me. This is what we're dealing with here. And he started to cry because it hurt, and it was there, and it was real. And what his young mind experienced there was, my mom is not because I said an F word or something. My mom is putting soap in my mouth. Because she doesn't love me at all. I'm so unlovable and not wanted. She's trying to kill me, right? Somebody's like, well, that's ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. But not to him. It's life and death.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that age, man.
This is where
we don't know any different at that age.
So fast forward, 30 years, like, of course, there's patterns and compulsivity around desperately seeking attention and validation from a woman, trying to, through the distorted mime language of sex, trying to right oneself emotionally. I'm trying to emotionally regulate and self-soothe in a world in which I do not have the tools nor am I equipped to do so. And we're simply doing the best we can. Yeah. And we're lighting fires and digging holes and making things 10 times worse every single day. And there's no end in sight. And the despair and the discouragement is overwhelming. That's what sex addiction is. Yep. Hooray.
Oh, dude. 100%. And then even in that comes the escape. Right, because we talk about it being an escape as well, right? Yeah, it's very validating, right? You go from having that tape in your head that your mom doesn't love you to now fast forward. Now you're in your adolescence, you're in your early 20s, and these women are choosing you. Oh my gosh. I went from being so unlovable and my mom, quote, trying to kill me in my mind that I think, to now I got women that are choosing me. Mm-hmm. Choosing me. Well, hell yeah, I'm going to jump onto this because I don't know when I'm going to get this again.
Right.
The attention piece, the validation piece. And then like the escape too, right? So we talk about once it actually gets to the act of penetration, that's almost the end of it. It's not even necessarily the end. It doesn't end with the orgasm, right? It kind of ends with almost the penetration, because there's that escape piece that I'm trying to escape reality, fantasy, obsession, right? My endeavors of whether that's the routine around, okay, I'm gonna go masturbate. Let me go find a quiet spot. I gotta find a quiet spot, right? I gotta pull my phone up. All right, I'm going to my favorite websites. Let me scroll through the websites and see which video I want to pick, or I'm going to download a hookup app, and I got to sort through the pictures, and now I'm going to send my pictures and get some pictures back. And I've shared this with you before, of like that idea of like getting lost in fuck. Getting lost in fuck means the search for it, the build up to it. So it's almost like whenever I get there, it's over before the orgasm even comes in. And it's that escape from my reality. I don't like myself enough, or I'm so uncomfortable with who I am and what I've got going on, that I just want to escape. And so I'm going to escape in sex.
Amen. That's totally, I agree. I know there's different connotations to the word, but I couldn't help but think of like edging, for example, right?
Oh, yeah.
Edging could be like, oh, I'm licking the straw, I'm around some behavior and it's dangerous, but I'm not fully in. But another definition, or my interpretation at times of edging, or at least as I have experienced it, is I am basically postponing orgasm and staying in this state of euphoria and totally medicated numbness, and want to prolong it as long as possible, because to orgasm is the dump of brain chemicals, and literally, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but the lights are out, the party's over, and everything just comes crashing back down to the ground, and it's dark, and I'm just Jeff again, and I'm not okay again, right?
Yeah.
The party is abruptly over. Nobody wants to race to that situation. I know I did not.
Mm-hmm.
But this we're also getting into kind of, this is again through the sexual activity, and there are other ways in which people medicate and treat the same condition that are less damaging or obvious, let's say, and that could be through emotional dynamics.
Sure.
Right? I mean, yes. Pornography, masturbation. I'm going to get some massage or a prostitute or a strip club or etc.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're trying to get at here is like, for instance, like I'm just gonna text a bunch of girls. Not even necessarily seeking sex, but I'm seeking attention through conversation. Who can I get to converse with me that I want to converse with? Who am I going to get these emojis from? Who's going to give me this attention? Who's going to give me the attention?
Yeah, and we've joked about this, and I guess it's like low-hanging fruit, right? I'm not burning my world. Well, first of all, I'm aware of it, and I don't do these things, but this is where recovery here for a newcomer can get challenging, because they're not going to see these things as problematic, and correctly so, at the outset, in a first step sort of way that's going to bring them into the room, right? But if you keep coming back, you'll see the exits up the highway much earlier, and you're like, I'm not hooking up with random strangers, but I just saw, if I was honest with myself, that I'm not feeling okay. I'm not getting any attention, and no women in my life are following my script. And so I just sent out 8 text messages to friends in a neutral sort of like, hey, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Hope life is good for you. Did you have a good 4th of July or whatever the bull is? Total BS, right? I'm fishing. I'm manipulative. I'm being a weasel.
That classic, hey, stranger.
Right. But talk about, you spoke about this earlier, compartmentalization, right? I don't love that I had to basically pull the levers and turn the knobs to create this dynamic, but I'll do it. It's not my first choice, but I will conveniently shut that part of my mind off when the text message finally does come in, like, oh, hey, Jeff, you're always really thoughtful. That's really nice, blah, blah, blah. That's the equivalent of the poop emoji.
Right.
Make no mistake about that. And it lands and it feels good. Now, it's just a low-level little IV, little drip. It's nothing. It doesn't just blow my mind. It lacks the intensity of some other situations that, fry your synapses, but it is a finger on the same hand. I am using the distorted mime language of sex to emotionally regulate and right some condition within Jeff that is not right on its own, through a loving relationship with myself or a relationship with God, right?
Yes.
I am using, in my case, an emotional dependency on a woman or a relationship or any dynamic therein or of to bring about a sense of stability within me.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to look for today.
It's interesting when we're talking. I'm going to go back real quick
Sure.
and talk about because I just remembered this about the orgasm, right? The edging, right? I laugh. It's funny that I laugh.
Say it.
It's
Say
laugh.
it. All right.
But so I remember fresh out of treatment. There was a couple months out of treatment. Yeah. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. A couple months out of treatment, and I relapsed on cocaine, and part of my deal was cocaine, porn, hookup apps, right? And I remember I'm doing cocaine, and I'm edging, and I'm watching porn, and essentially in my mind I was saying, well, as long as I don't orgasm, I'm going to hold on to this sexual sobriety. But here I am. I've dabbled. I've broken my chemical sobriety, and now I'm watching porn, which is in my inner circle. But it's just interesting that I did not want to orgasm because that would have meant dire whatever it was. But it just is as we were talking about that, I thought about that, and I was like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
The power,
and what it does, man.
The power of the mind, though.
The power of the mind. So, talking about chumming the waters, right, as we like to call it, throwing out hooks. And, it's again, yes, it's fairly innocent, right? But we talk about the progression of this thing, right? And one of the, with this being an intimacy disorder, oftentimes we mistake sexual intensity for emotional intimacy. Right. So with that being said, when I'm getting these text messages, right? Oh, you're so thoughtful. Thanks so much. Right. That low drip, man, that feels good. Well, I need to rack up this intensity, because that's going to only satisfy me for so long that I need to eventually crank up the intensity, which again, I confuse for intimacy, because before recovery, I thought intimacy was we're getting naked and we're having sex.
Right.
That's intimacy to me. So what I will do is I will try to manipulate the situation. How quickly can I turn this conversation sexual? How quickly can I gauge where you're at and how you feel about me to try to get you in a spot to where this can now be a full-blown sexting conversation. Maybe some nudes will be sent, but hopefully we'll eventually get this so intense that what I will do is I'll go masturbate about it, and then I won't respond to you anymore until I'm ready for that, to that again. Or let's build this up so much to where, I've got you so hot and bothered that you're like, where are you at right now? I got to come to you right now, which never actually, but just in my head, right?
Right.
That,
totally.
that intensity that we're looking for, right? It goes from that kissy face emoji.
Yeah.
But man, now I need more.
Well, we do need more. A couple things that, well, before I forget, because I have squirrel brain here. Really great point, right? And this gets really, again, in no way am I an expert, but I think there's some key things to consider here. First of all, know this. Of course, we are going to confuse intimacy with, intensity with intimacy. And the truth is, we have no idea what intimacy is, or at least that was my experience. Yes. We think we do. We know what the word was in the dictionary, but I'm telling you.
Yeah, or we confuse like really like lustful sex for feelings.
Well, right. So what we're talking about is we come into, we're in our problematic behavior with a bunch of broken belief systems, not only shame-based, but also just like, that's wrong. Intensity is not joy, and it's also not intimacy, but we don't know that. You don't know what you don't know, right? So here's what's challenging about this, and keep coming back, everybody. What is necessary, first of all, is to have an experience, and all this takes time and trial and error, and keep coming back. Okay, first of all, I think it's necessary to see actually what intensity is. We intellectually know, oh, well, intensity, I know what it is. I'm telling you, I know this. When it's white noise and it is the norm in your life because your behavior is so consistent, you don't even know. You haven't been sober. You haven't stopped the behavior for any length of time. So you don't even appreciate how intense and potent and powerful it is, right? It's almost like, it's just like this is normal, right? Almost back to that like nut clarity, or I have to, people think their God-given sexual drives, and this is just a loose opinion here, is like, man, I'm just oversexed and I actually have sex twice a day, every day.
I'm hypersexual. So real quick,
hold on. I want to come back around, but go ahead.
So I want to, because I actually kind of was thinking about this recently and had this conversation with somebody today, right? So that was I'm just hypersexual.
Right.
So I am a sex addict, right? I am a person in recovery with sexual addiction. So you would think, right, by that terminology, by that logic, that I am a sex crazed human being. I am in a committed, healthy relationship, right? The healthiest relationship I've ever been in. We were just on a trip together. 5 days we spent together. I had one orgasm, right? And I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I'm not mad at her. I know that if I really actually needed it, I could have gone to her and said, hey, I would like some physical intimacy. And she would have been like, okay, let's talk about it. Or yeah, no problem. I'd like that too. I wasn't mad at her. I didn't feel the need when I got home, I'm going to look at porn because she's just not serving me. So but here I am, right? By that logic of I'm just a hypersexual, that my sex drive is through the roof. And when I don't get it twice a day, watch out, because I'm going to come and knock down your door for it. When it's actually like one of the bigger myths. Like, I am okay with having sex once a week.
Yes, and I'm going to toot your own horn here, because you've grown and operate today in a place of a decent amount of emotional intelligence and maturity and grace and sobriety, and you know what I mean? Like, you're not on fire crazy, right?
Thanks for letting me cut you off, by the way.
No problem, brother. I'll come back around. This is my opinion, at least lazy numbers. 99% of orgasms that I experienced before I came to this program were rooted in emotional discomfort and not God-given sexual need.
I would say 100%.
99 point, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's 99 or 100, point is, if I'm honest with myself, I see that today. And again, but we don't know that when we're coming. We think we're, again, I don't believe in horny today in the way that we've talked many times about this. I'm horny. And like, I bet you're not. I bet your boss like said something about the quality of your work, or somebody cut you off in traffic, or you saw the scale, go up 5 pounds in weight, or whatever the fuck it is.
Or she didn't text you back fast enough.
She didn't give you a poop emoji.
There were no emojis in her response.
Right. In the same way that my body lets me know when I'm hungry. Really, it actually does. It will let me know. But let me come back to my point here. This takes trial and error and time. You have to abstain at some point in time. If you come here, you have to abstain from behavior to get a baseline, rudimentary understanding of what intensity actually looks like and feels like in your life, because that's how normalized it's been. You need to know what you're dealing with. And I'll tell you, we talked about this. If you get sober and then slip or relapse and like binge in some porn or do something and experience it again, and appreciate how potent it is and fries your brain, you're like, oh my God, that's really powerful stuff. No, it just blots everything out. It's almost like I used to be a cigarette smoker, and smoked 30 cigarettes a day. And I'm like, they're no big deal. But if I smoked a cigarette today, I bet the first one would almost put me on my knees just about, like it's been a long time. So anyway, so you need to understand what intensity actually is, and you can't intellectualize that. And you can't actually understand what that is by listening to me tell you in this podcast. You have to have an experience with that. That's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. So you need to know, first of all, and you can't take my word for it either, you don't know pretty much jack shit about intimacy. You don't. Physical intimacy is one element of
so many.
Right.
It's the cherry on top of all of the other intimacies combined. It means nothing if I don't have this litany of all of these other intimacies.
Without question. And to me, probably because of my experience as a recovering addict, I place less emphasis on it. It's still important than emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
That has to be the horse out before the cart. 100%.
100%.
So just knowing that, I'm going to confuse intensity with intimacy because I don't know what intimacy is. Yeah. Okay, of course. And I need to know what is intensity? What's it doing for me? Why, and again, I don't know that until I actually have some willingness around changing my behavior. Because then you're going to have an experience with that. Yeah. You're going to see what, you mentioned, backing up a smidge, like rituals, right? Rituals that, the cute Carnes talks about. And it's totally true that the cycle, there's a consistency here. That also doesn't happen in a single day.
No.
Right. But over time, despair, preoccupation, ritual, acting out, despair. It's this kind of thing. But what the rituals can look like are very interesting and varied, right? Mm-hmm. Putting on a shot of obsession, getting on my favorite jeans, driving down this street. It's certain things that are like, well, this is bizarre, right? Sure, going to this, put in this www dot or something. All of a sudden, it's like they're very. I'm telling you, the brain chemistry changes with these actions, and we need to know that.
It does,
right?
It really does. Like even like texting my drug dealer, not knowing if I was going to get it that night or not, or that day or whatever it was, but like, man, like that would get it. My mood lifted up, right? I'm like, yeah. And that obsession would last for days. Same with the sexual side of things too.
Well, and this is why we often, at least I did, 99 out of 100 times I would succumb. You say why the obsession lasted for days. I have a half-baked cake coming out of the oven here. People act out because of an obsession that they can't quiet. Right. They act out to quiet an obsession of the mind that won't seem to stop on its own. Mm-hmm. Right. And I've experienced that. It's terrifying. And that's what sex addiction is, too. If you really have it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It doesn't just go away like, man, I could go for a cheeseburger. And I had one yesterday. I don't want one. Right. This is like I want athlete's foot of the mind. Right. And it won't go away. I don't know how. I just got to do this thing. I used to tell you this, that I was terrified of having the idea of acting out. The thought of acting out, because to have the thought of acting out meant to act out. There was
oh my God, holy shit, I can relate to that. Now today that looks a little different.
It does.
Today it does, but yeah, back in the day, absolutely, man. If the thought of acting out crossed my mind, whether it was that day, the next day, 3 days, a week later, I was eventually going to act out.
Yeah. It's a powerful trance-like thing. I want to come back around to this thing because the point that you were making, I think it matters also. You talked about I'm paraphrasing here, but like getting your needs met. I was sexual with her or something. I sent out the hooks and there they are. Cool, blah, blah, blah. Right. Here's what I think we have to come to see as well. Now, I can tell you this, but I don't believe you'll believe me. I didn't believe it either, but I hope you understand this too. I believe that you do. Because it is, how's that? It is, for me, it's insatiable, right? It's where I'm going with this, right? Yes. So like when I'm operating out of shame and I want attention and validation, okay? I get that, let's say, because you throw out enough, you chum enough water, you throw enough lines, you find some sick person or something. We work hard enough, we get it.
We can find it, yes.
And then there's this intensity and it's all is right with the world, right? Here's what we have to come to know experientially. And this is basically what first step is, what leads us into rooms, is that it doesn't work. It seems, but that's a gift when you finally see that. Some people chase that forever and never have that experience. But if all the women in the world actually lined up and said they loved me and thought I was amazing, right? And I know that sounds funny, but I'm telling you, when you know the truth that that wound inside you, like our friend who's like, my mom's trying to kill me, that actually is still there and did not go away. That's a very scary place to be, because what that says is you're fucked. That's the stepping off point, right? Because you can keep chasing this forever, and it seems to hold it just at arm's bay, but sometimes it's even like it's getting closer, but I'm stiff arming it. It's right there. But all of it in the world can't it's like, shit, that's not it. It's not it. So what do I do? And that's when we actually ideally stop running, turn and face it, open up your arms and say like, all right, let's feel everything that we got to feel.
Yeah. That's such an interesting, man. Cause I mean, even in a program, trying to work a program, still thinking that this was some sort of answer or solution, there was almost its own desperation and despair that came with it just isn't working anymore. But it took me a long time to get to that spot where it was like, dude, why do we keep doing this?
Right.
It's not the answer that I'm looking for. Right. Or, I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but like almost like that last hurrah, like this experience that I'm about to have, I'm going to cross my T's and dot my I's, and it is going to be picture perfect. And if I can just get this fantasy perfect, right? I'm going to find the perfect movie. I'm going to find the perfect scene. I'm going to find the perfect prostitute. And it's going to be, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. And then I'm going to be done. And how many times I've gone through that, trying to replay whatever it is I'm trying to replay, and get some kind of whatever fantasy it is fulfilled to the T, right? But as we know about fantasies, there's a reason why they're fantasy and that they're not actually reality. They'll never become reality. So all of my fantasies, or all of what I thought I was acting on my fantasies, was they never hit that mark, which led in me like almost a desire and a drive to continue to try to hit that mark of perfection in it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think the conscious mind, the human mind, the ego is always trying to help us and streamline and understand and solve and make sense of something, right? This gets deep. This is just my kind of where my journey has taken me. And that is back to the mime thing we talked about, right? I wear the mime mask and I like that, right? But then we don't know who we are. We lack personal wholeness, right? So if that's the core place that everything is coming from, fantasy, reality, or that's what I was going to say. Why is it so hard to like let go of? Even after we begin to experience that, one is too many and 1,000 never enough, right? All the women in the world. I've done this. I've been on dating apps and set my parameters and my settings from age, 20, just older than my daughter, to 75 years old in the whole world. And like by the end of a binge, just like, and that's like in the shame of like just being that out of control, right? But that's truly an example of like the neediness of like, and if they all got in line and said, Jeff, you're amazing, I knew that the trauma actually wouldn't be treated. The wound doesn't heal, right? Okay. But however, it is a known commodity. It's known. It doesn't work. Sense it. It's painful. It's creating more problems, but we know it. And so I think it's just a place to appreciate what we ultimately, it's a gift when we see this, the fear and the courage and that it takes to walk into the unknown, because you don't what it's like to not wear a mask, that mime mask. What's it? And we use the words like, oh, fantasy and all, like this shit gets really deep and hard. Like being in reality. We throw that word around like, oh, it's reality, right? Guess what? We're sitting in a treatment center talking right now, like addictions, compulsions, all this shit. People don't do well in reality, most of them, because reality is uncomfortable. It doesn't discriminate. It just is, right? For me to be here in reality with you, it requires, and all these things happen at the same time, some sort of growth, some sort of personal wholeness. I'm Jeff today. I know what that is a little bit. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but we want to stay in fantasy. I
Yeah.
want to stay in behaviors because, again, it's known, and walking into the unknown and being vulnerable and mealy and no skin like a newborn giraffe that just dropped on the ground and it's 100 degrees in St. Louis and you don't, like, that's literally what this is looking like. Like, hey, don't medicate anymore. Let go of
Yeah.
these behaviors that you think have been trying to, save your life, and develop new ways of self-soothing and emotionally regulating. That's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. And like, my question to you is, what was because and you and I have talked about this recently. We both qualify for other fellowships, right? Alcoholics, AA, NA, and I know what my answer is, but I'm curious, and I think I have an idea of what your answer is, but like, how hard was it for you to realize that, like, yeah, the drink serves me no purpose in my life, and I'm good with putting it down, and that I don't have the struggles? Because if you are in recovery for sexual addiction, there is a part of recovery for sexual addiction that is really hard. Like the urges, right? And I share this with you guys on my podcast on the journey, is like, the urges are still there too. Whereas the drug and alcohol urges, maybe they're there, but how the quiet those are. They're in and out. Whereas the sexual side, the sexual urges will take over, and can take over at any point in time, and they are loud sometimes.
Agree with that 100%. I always try to qualify what I would say here as this is so simply my experience, right? I don't want to discredit or minimize anybody's challenge related to chemical addiction and the sobriety around it, right? But my experience was, it was incredibly easy. Like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, and when I had a bottom experience, I said it, and it was done. It was. I ran into a forest 100 miles. And I found alcohol at mile marker 95. Finally got my shit together and wanted to find a new way of life, and started coming back out of that forest, and set alcohol down at mile marker 95, just about essentially, let's say where I picked it up, right? I got 95 more miles to go of, and again, just bear with me, right? But the point is of trauma, fantasy, warped belief systems. And again, for me, the emotional dependency on a woman in a relationship, I leaned on like it was oxygen for the 95 miles. Before it was more effective. It was in my pores before I found alcohol and drugs, and they were great, and I loved them. But they served to medicate me and distract me from the pain of being me. I saw that there wasn't much fight. I knew it. They were problematic. In fact, the consequences were more like, oh, this is just, it ain't working. Set that down. Cool. And that's just my experience. These other things that I think are more ambiguous, they're slower to build and much more tenacious. I don't know, like, that implies they're sinister. They're not. They're just in my coding at a deeper level. Like, the matrix is going on within me. It's coming down. And in there is, I'm not okay without the attentions and validation of a woman.
Yep.
And so every single day, I tell people this, I'm like, I'm not reading the big book today, not because I don't love it. I do, but I firmly believe this. Before I drink alcohol today, I'm going to be off the rails. This domino is going to fall first, way first.
I totally agree with you. Yes, if I was to go off the rails, it would start first and foremost with sexual addiction.
And I want to be clear here. Yeah. That's not arrogance. That's not me being cocky. I give that to God. That's just, it's not the issue today. But what Alex and I are what we're talking about right now, this is where my focus is all day, every day. This is my priority. And if I'm okay here in the boat, not even just in the center of the boat, but if I'm in the boat, I'm all right. I'm in the arena.
Yeah. Yeah. And, something too about it being, the process addiction, right? I don't want to, I'm okay with giving up drugs and alcohol for the rest of my life. I'm good. We're sexual beings. Last time I checked, I have no desire to be abstinent for the rest of my life. So, like, how do we integrate this into a healthy element in our life? How do I recognize the patterns? Because that's another thing that goes into it, man. Just looking at the patterns. What are my patterns? Am I a habitual relationshipper? Once I get out of a relationship, am I right back in a relationship? Am I looking for my next relationship while I'm still in a current relationship? Am I going after people that are unavailable to me? And I always loved that in the literature, right? Where like the 15 common characteristics about like people being unavailable to me. Like when in reality, like I'm the one that's unavailable. I was the one that was always unavailable.
Absolutely.
I was the one.
Yep.
Because of my motives and all I wanted out of it. Yeah, man. I mean, there's just so much that goes into this.
You actually let's bring this around here.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about integrating the sexuality, right? You don't want to live the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I do, for the record, believe that actually the prospect of that probably isn't as awful as we think it is. I'm not saying I want to do it either, but I think as we grow, it's like it actually wouldn't kill me. Early on, it'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. But it's like,
well, that's
it's okay.
And like I was talking about earlier, right? Like I'm not some oversexed, crazed, maniac that I'm foaming at the mouth if I don't get my orgasm in today.
Right.
And like that's almost a myth of sexual addiction. There's been times where like I've told people now, these people aren't probably the healthiest people. I'm sharing with people, hey, I'm a sex addict. And they're like, fuck, it must be nice. Man, I wish I had that problem. No, actually, you don't wish that you had this problem. This problem has caused me a lot of problems in my life. I've hurt a lot of people. I've ruined relationships. I have destroyed other people's sense of self, other people's self-esteem, self-confidence. I have put partners in physical danger. So, it's not just because I'm just, and now that like I'm actually taken care of, hence I don't buy into horny. I don't buy into horny, and I have a hard time buying into bored. Those are the two that I have a hard time buying into when people are like, well, I was horny or I was just bored. No, you really weren't. There's something more difficult going on underneath there, what we kind of talked about. And that like I'm more okay with myself than I've ever have been before. I'm more okay with the quiet. I'm great in the quiet now. I really like the quiet. Right? Well, those quiet times were often the most uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, buddy.
Like, I don't like sitting with myself, right? I'm crawling out of my skin, right? Like, I don't want to be around, especially early in recovery. I don't want to be around everybody because now I've got this awareness about me that I don't fucking like. Ugh. Whereas now it's like, bring on the quiet, man. Bring on the quiet. I'm okay in the quiet. I'm actually, and you can say it like, love for yourself.
We talk about this. I think that's the ideal, right? And I love it. That's massive growth and fantastic. And you've worked really hard. I'm glad you experienced that. I want to say like, oh, I love myself, right? I told you this. People say that I give them the side eye. I'm like, I don't believe it. However, here's what before, and why I say that, and I was being funny, but I want to make this point. I'd hear people in meetings say like, I love myself today. Yeah. And then I'd feel like I'm doing something wrong because I don't yet. And I've been at this a long time. That's important to smash that. It doesn't work kind of like that. But today, what growth looks like is I don't like, in a sense, love myself today. And like, oh, Alex, I love myself today. Because that would be a lie. But it's very significant. I can sit in the quiet and at least be comfortable and not actively with white hot hate be disgusted with myself. Yep. Those are two different things, right? But to actually be fairly neutral, that's significant growth and it's a significant change, right?
100%.
I guess it's moving toward eventually I'll be like, yeah, I love myself. But in the meantime, I'm really grateful to just be like, I'm all right.
Like 100%, man. And it's one of those things that ebbs and flows just like everything, right? Like, I sit here and I say, you know what? I like myself today. Check in with me tomorrow. Check in with me tomorrow.
Check in with you tonight.
Right. Yeah, check in with me tonight on my drive home, man. Who knows what happens on my... I got 16 stoplights to go through on my way home, man. I might be in a different place on the way home. But, it's and people think this too. It's like people think that it's like a state that you're trying to get to, right? Or a destination. When it's like, it's not a destination. It's, okay, how do I move through it when I'm not comfortable with myself? How do I move through the uncomfortable? Because I'm going to get uncomfortable at some point in time.
Yeah. You're going to bump into something.
You're going to have an experience with something. You're going to bump up against something, right? Like it's not a one and done, And I think so many people look at it as that, as, well, when I can get to the spot where I can say that I love myself, that's when I know I'm good. Well, again, I can't always wake up in the morning and say that I love myself or that I like myself. I have moments, absolutely. Jeff, you have moments, absolutely. But again, check in with me in 10 minutes.
Related to what we're talking about, but related. I want to circle back because you said something back to the integrated into our life as a healthy element.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually led this whole thing. I kind of meant to make this point almost to the, I referenced going into the treatment center, right? Some of the interesting, humorous questions we get from people totally out of ignorance. I don't mean that in an asshole way, but just like a lot of the questions that we get from people who have no idea. Actually, that was the whole point of this kind of talk around what does sexual sobriety look like? Or what does sexual addiction look like? And what does sexual sobriety look like? And I think there's an importance in dispelling the myth that sexual addiction recovery or / sobriety is boring. And I'm being funny, but I tell people this in the treatment center. This is what it does. This is what it does not mean. This is what it doesn't look like is you have to have the lights off and just kiss in the missionary position. Well, you and I know this, right? But the people in the treatment center, they're like, because the effective approach is you want to smash any preconceived prejudices they have toward this recovery, this addiction, this recovery. And if I were to suggest to them, you know what your life in sexual recovery is going to be like once you're sober? It's going to be boring as fuck. That's what sobriety looks like. Come on, sign up, right? They're going to be like, I don't want to do that, right? And again, I'm playing it large and funny, but it's important to know back to integrating into our life as a healthy element. I want to be clear here and so just take this with a grain of salt, but it's those of you that are listening, like, and who know this, but for people that are new and exploring, you can, I'm just talking here, you can be wild and freaky, freak daddy, crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's all okay. Here's where the challenge is. If you're honest with yourself, if it's integrated into your life as a healthy element, you can do whatever you want. Now, again, there's some guidelines for what that looks like, right? What's okay for some people, man, I get chained up and, I'm not trying to be triggery, but it's like, man, you can do whatever you want. Provided it's in, this is just my opinion, provided it's in the sunlight, it's not a secret. That's a key number one element that's required. Is this a secret that I can't tell anybody? If it is, that's a problem for me. But if I'm talking about it with my partner, I'm in some committed relationship and like, hey, this is integrated into our life as a healthy element because we talk about it. There's a shared mutual dynamic of trust and respect. There are no secrets, on and on and on. That changes things, right? There's no, the shame 100%. Isn't connected to the behavior. But it just, the simple point I wanted to make there was that you can have a very gratifying, satisfying, icy hot sex life, in case you were worried, that's what sexual sobriety was devoid of. That is not true.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You can be a freak and be sober in recovery, right? So again, back to the idea of all of the intimacies, right?
Yeah.
Are you and your partner connected emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? If you are, if you guys are your safe spaces, if you're sharing feelings, if you're sharing uncomfortability, like, and you guys are all walking through that, you want to hook up a swing in your house? Hook up a swing.
Yep.
You want to bring toys into the bedroom? Bring toys into the bedroom.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
True story. It gets a little, I mean, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I think it's important to open up the lines of communication around this, to have dialogue about this, to let people know, like, that's okay.
Yeah, and that so our fantasies and things like that, like these are things that are in us, right? And there's no shame in talking about them with your partner, right? Within the confines. Again, let me check do I have the intimacy,
right?
But also too, like if there's something you want to try, like that communication, right? I'm reminded of communication, and communication builds intimacy. Right. So if there's something that I want to try sexually, but I'm really ashamed of, and I just kind of hide it, like, and I don't bring it to my partner, like I should bring that to my partner. I should talk about these things. Like, yeah, let's talk about these things because maybe my partner's got something they want to try out, I
think another thing to add here is that, of course, and again, this is all hypothetical, right? These activities, in the way that we've laid them out, they're implemented into our life as a healthy element, let's say. There's going to be an intensity there, right? Of course there is. That's human. There's passion, excitement, okay? But theoretically, we've grown as people. We're in a healthy relationship. So that intensity isn't just inherently, it's not a bad thing. And we talked about it earlier, like, ooh, intensity, it's not joy. And we confuse it with intimacy. So what we're talking about here, it needs to be understood that we have grown a little bit around that. We know this, and that we experience that intensity with some of this, let's say, behavior or these dynamics. But again, it is the cart. It is not the cart out in front of the horse. The horse out in front of that cart that's intense. But I know that my emotional intimacy foundation is a bedrock with my partner, and that we have normalized as a way of life, honest communication. And it's not just about, cool, let's have this intense experience on a Wednesday night, get the swing out or something. You know what I mean? And that would be back to the capacity to lie to ourselves. And we need to like, what am I doing? What are my motives? What are my intentions here? You can try lying to yourself about some of this stuff. People do this, like, well, what should be in my circle? Well, maybe this, hey, you know what is? I'm going to try to integrate this into my life as a healthy element, right? I'm going to try to, I'm laughing, but we do this. And this is what's tricky about AA just tells me, hey, don't drink, or SA tells me this is what sobriety is for you. But all these other programs actually empower you and even challenge you with the responsibility for yourself of like, well, what does that look like for you? Well, honestly, everybody that I know balks at or is uncomfortable with that because it's hard. It by its very nature, it is going to involve, I'll just use the term, failing. That's kind of shameful, but it's because we don't know. We want to just do perfectly. I want you to tell me, Jeff, don't drink. Jeff, don't look at pornography. Jeff, don't do it. Don't do this. Don't blah, blah, blah. Right. And then, okay, so no, okay, it's all okay. My first couple SRPs were actually just what people that I looked up to in recovery sort of had. I heard them like a parrot that was my shame actually. And then, okay, so now I'm going to be good because I'm actually like this guy and this guy and this guy. That's their SRP. As I've grown, and this is taking a long time for me. Maybe it won't for you. But I'm like, well, wait a minute. What do I'm going to try that thing. I'm going to try sexting with my partner. Something that I don't know that I've done in recovery or in the place that I am when I'm trying to do it today as a sober individual, right? Maybe that isn't the best language. But again, I want to control it and have I want the outcome to be something that I'm managing. And when I begin to practice and have experiences, that's one of our favorite, you're going to have an experience with that, right? I'm going to go date. I'm going to have sex. I'm going to get ready. It's going to throw some shit off. Why wouldn't it? Right. I mean, but that brings up a lot of stuff for us.
It does.
So it takes practice in communication and commitment. Like, all right, I did that. And then sit and reflect in some quiet. Like, how did that go? How preoccupied am I about, I did that thing? It was inner circle. Now maybe it's middle. I'm not sure. God, I've been thinking about it for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
That kind of some key data, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and like, and I'm not being funny, but it's like, but that's actually growth. That's actually, that's beneficial. It is better to do that. This is my stance today for me, than to never risk at all out of a fear-based motive and intention, which is still shame, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, I don't know. I'm going to go have that experience, which actually takes great courage.
No, it does. And I mean, that's why, like, there's things that, my whole recovery is kind of based off the experiences, right? Now, not justifying, right? Like, because we're not sitting here, because, somebody that doesn't fully understand or isn't fully ready would hear that and go, yeah, then I am going to go act out.
Right.
These experiences.
He said, go do the
right.
You know what?
Right.
Go get a hooker. Yeah. No,
right. Oh, I've never gotten a hooker before, so I'm going to go get one.
Right.
And that's not what we're saying, right? That's you. That's if somebody were to do that, that's them hearing what they want to hear and twisting.
They would have an experience with that.
They'd have an experience with that, right? So, never once have I ever justified my acting up by behavior by saying why I needed to have an experience, and I never justified that. And, one of the things about like the intensity is the withdrawals from acting out, where there's withdrawals from, alcohol and drug detox, 100%. Well, there's also withdrawals. And so this was something very early on that like really baffled me, was like, okay, so if there are physical withdrawals from my sexual addiction, right, which is often an emotional hangover, right? The dopamine dump. Oftentimes a lot of my acting out was fueled by anxiety and shame. So, the emotional hangover, there's more anxiety and shame after I acted out, right? So so I was like, well, if there's a withdrawal from me acting out, why is there no withdrawal from healthy sex? Essentially, it's the same outcome. In my mind, the same outcome is an orgasm. That's what we're achieving here. And that's what I was basing it off of. Well, they both end in an orgasm. How is one a withdrawal and one is not a withdrawal? Well, I wasn't taking into effect everything else that goes into acting out, right? The shame, the guilt, the anxiety, the sense of self, like hating who I am, right?
Okay.
The low self-esteem versus I'm in a relationship. I don't really struggle. I struggle with those things. I still do. However, I'm with somebody who validates who I am. And with the work that I've done on myself, I'm kind of able to validate who I am. Better than I ever have before. Yep. Again, check in with me later. To where we're not having these intense interactions, whereas all of my acting out were typically intense, anonymous hookups where I got to go drive somewhere to a neighborhood. I got to go into somebody's house. I mean, they were intense.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, it's Tuesday night. Ooh, we're getting to bed a little early. Ooh, how about a little smooch? Like
is that the talk in your house?
That's not the talk. That's not the talk at all. That's not the talk at all.
Just teasing.
Yeah. But right, so like, and that made sense to me. I had a kind of a therapist kind of break that down to me a little bit, and that like made sense to me. I was like, okay. And you're right. Within the confines of a relationship, healthy sex. Now, I believe, and I think you and me have talked about this before, is I think that we can actually act out within our own relationships.
Yeah, we do. I think in spite of our best efforts to not, I hope, but absolutely. Can I ensure with perfection that I don't ever engage in some behavior that is about my emotional regulation? Like I'm it's backtracking just a smidge, which I love what you brought up and everything that you said. And I wanted to add to it the hangover, the difference between, how come what's the difference? We're both ending in ejaculation, let's say. But you didn't say this, but it was implied. The intention and the motivation behind the action is the difference. I'm not selfishly a taker. I'm not using you for something. We're engaging, but I'm on different ground when I've engaged with you. Mm-hmm. And to me, that makes a huge difference on the other side of it. I'm okay. But when I'm a taker and I'm just this parasitic, cancerous, whether you know it or not, or whether you are even okay with it or not. See, and I've also bought that lie where if they say they're okay with it, I ought not to feel bad or something. You know what I mean?
It was consensual,
Right.
We were she was using me and I was using her, and that was agreed upon.
That can often be the case. But then here's the bad news for the addict, or as you grow, this is my experience. Sure. But my integrity, my inner conscience, my shame doesn't matter whether they were okay with it or not. Like I know I've, you know what I mean? I got the critical voice. I'm like, I've fallen short. I'm not okay. Even if they were okay with it, I know that I know that I'm not okay. I was not okay when I did it. And I know you can't bullshit yourself on some core heart level. You know that you're just as broken and even more so because now you're done and you see them in the light and you wish you hadn't even done it. And what are you even doing here? And you're in some house that somebody smelled and they get facial hair, whatever. It doesn't on and on and on. No, I'm for real. Yeah. And you're like, what am I doing here? Yeah. And it just, yes. So the hangover is different when I'm different. Where was I going with all that? Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I got the facial hair threw me off. But withdrawal is
the different grounding that we're on, man. I love that visual, right? Like what ground am I on? Am I in my addiction? I'm a taker. Whereas in recovery and in my relationship, I am expressing, and it's a bid for connection. It's connection. It's physically expressing my feelings for my partner, on completely different grounds, right? I'm going into it not focused solely on my needs. This is us.
Right.
This is an experience that we get to have together that brings us closer versus I'm a taker and you're an object and I'm going to use you. And then when I'm done, I am going to slink away and you'll hear from me when I'm ready to take it.
When I'm in enough pain to just simply do that again.
Yeah.
You were talking about, do we act out in our relationships? For me, I was just saying that not much. It's different, right? But I'll concede that there are times where I've probably relied on my partner for some sort of emotional stability, whether through sexual behavior or some sort of emotional interaction. But I'm really clean on this, that it's very few and far between, and usually at a level that's pretty subconscious, because I'm just going to say I'm pretty proud of it. Like I care pretty much about my program, and I'm working a 10-step. Like if you're in the sunlight as a way of life, it's pretty hard to be pretty far off the rails and be doing that. Of course, it's possible, right? But even if that happens, it's the honest communication on the other side of it. Like, something about that didn't feel right. You know, like, hey, can we take a minute and reconnect or just something? But real growth, I'll tell you what, real growth is when your partner wants to engage in some physical intimacy and you're like, actually, I'm not okay.
I'm not in that space.
And to deny
to really connect with you on that level.
Yes.
Which, you know, it's funny because, like, arguably enough, like, there's going to be times where, you know, you and your partner aren't on the same level going into the physical intimacy. You know, maybe one partner's kind of asking for it and the other partner's going, I don't really feel like it, but you know what? Yeah, okay. Because I know that was also part of the explanation from the therapist as well, is like, hey, think about this. Like, there's going to be times where, like, you may have to, your partner's going to compromise. Your partner may not want it right then and there. But you know what? They're going to say, you know what? Okay, I'm okay with trying to show up for you. I'm going to try to show up. I know that you would like it, so I'm going to try to show up. And there's times where maybe I'll be like that. You know, so there's going to be times where we're not necessarily on the same page. Because, you know, sometimes it doesn't work like that.
Does not.
Sometimes we're not both just fucking fired up, ready to go.
So this is my own particular crutch, or not crutch, but just a burden. I tend to overanalyze everything often. I care a lot, and my last relationship, I don't think this is in poor taste, but it's valid to throw on the table. She occasionally would say, like, sometimes I just want to fuck. Now, maybe for her, again, backing up to, I don't believe in horny. I don't say that. Sometimes, Alex, I just want to fuck. That's a red flag, and it demands examination. That's for me. I believe her. I'll take her at face value. Sometimes she was like, sometimes I just want to fuck. Okay, I'm not trying to be crass or blunt here. I'm like, oh, all right, okay. So I'm happy to help you, right? But in this like, I'm in recovery. I have a program. I'm like, what is this? I would overanalyze that. Like, is that not okay? Is that just flippant? Is that not, you know what I mean? Is that not loving enough for some shit or something? You know, like, and again, this was not, you know, frequently, but it did something in my head where I was like, we need to talk about it and be more, you know, something. And I was like, hey, keep it simple, Jeff. Like, don't take myself so seriously. Like, it's okay. Like, sometimes that's what it maybe looks like. Right. And that's okay too, but that's part of my growth, because again, I have this rigid desire to control, which is even still out of shame. I want to be good in my relationship. I want to be perfect and all this. I can't. She just says, let's just fuck. I can't just do that. That's not sober. Okay. There's some voice up there saying something about that ain't right. And to see that and to know what that is and to push back and go like, Jeff, I'm okay. Like, I am. It's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I keep coming back, Alex.
Keep coming back, man. Moral of the story, right? Keep coming back. You know, if you got questions, you know, reach out or go check out your local meeting, right? There's Zoom meetings, SAA.org. You can find all your meetings. SCA. Is it .org for SCA? I believe it is.
I do not know off the top of my head.
I believe it is. CA, right? They've got a meeting finder. SLA. They have Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. They've got a meeting finder. You know, NES. Like, if you're curious, there's resources out there.
Right. And I almost want to say this. Well, I do want to say this as well. Like, my journey is my journey. Alex, your journey is your journey. And what I see today, the low-hanging fruit in front of my face, is what is in front of my face. There are those people who, what's in front of their face today is I just can't stop looking at pornography. You guys are talking about deep shame. I don't love myself, or again, and I maintain that that's core and what's going on. However, you don't see that, and you just freaking crazy addicted to viewing pornography and can't stop, and that's just where it's at. You know, that's the fire that's got to be put out first. I mean, there's, you know, again, Sex and Porn Addicts Anonymous. resources and support to help abstain, get some separation from the behavior, because you don't see any of these things at all or with any kind of clarity until the fog of that is you're separated from it.
You gotta pull away from some of it in order to see kind of what's going on. Right. It starts with the things I'm doing I don't want to do anymore. You gotta have some kind of desire to want to stop too.
It's pretty helpful.
Like so many people wanted me to get help way before I got help.
Mm-hmm.
But until I realized that I needed help for myself, there was no getting through to me. To me because I can be very stubborn, So, yeah.
This is a prayer for everybody. They say, bring the body, maybe the mind will follow, make room for God, leave room for God, all that stuff. Just get into a meeting, perhaps all that stuff is great, right? But I believe, this is my experience. I have never changed anything, certainly not at the onset, because you had a problem with it. Right? You cried, you told me, you were angry. You said, Jeff, I don't want you to do that anymore. Maybe for a week, but not with any, I'm not telling you true change with any sort of certainty and consistency. It was not until that became objectionable to me.
Yep.
That's very important. You and I see people come into the meetings all the time. And it's great you're there, right? But if you're there, and only you really know this, right? Well, we suspect too, but you got to ask yourselves this, like, I'm here. She caught me. She saw what I downloaded, or whatever. But she's mad, and so shit's bad. And so I'm in these meetings and I'm talking, and I got this book, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But if you're really honest, like, do you want to be here? One of the things I think I asked you early, I ask everybody this early on. It's like a tough question. If you never got caught, if she didn't ever catch you, if she didn't throw things at you, if you're not getting a divorce, if you're not getting an attorney, if you're not getting HIV or some unwanted pregnancy or a husband that wants to murder you, none of those uncomfortable external situations are happening to you. And you could ensure that you are scot-free. Like, there's none of that. Do you want to stop this? Right? Now, that's a tough question.
Right? As I'm sitting here, man, my first initial response to that is like, where do I sign up for that? I'm curious as to what my answer was to you 40 years ago. I don't remember when that was. Man, that's a great question.
I mean, it's not a pass or fail.
No.
The honest answer would be like, I think I would, of course. All right. We that's honest though. At least being honest. Right. But if that motive and intention is it stays with you too long and you don't ever experience the shift as you continue to come back, because that can happen too. If you come enough and you begin to hear and you identify, again, miracles happen. But if you're there for the reason of not change and healing, but rather avoiding uncomfortable consequences related to your behavior, it's not going to work. You know it. I know it. It's not going to work. And we all see it and we all nod and we keep coming back. We're going to be here the next time with love, right? No judgment, ever rubbing it in anybody's face. And maybe that's what people have to go through until that thing clicks today. I'm grateful. I'm telling you, I mean, I can look across at you and say, Alex, that answer to that question for me is I don't want to do that. And I know it because, and we've talked about this, to do it without getting caught or without any negative consequences actually is a lie, because there are negative consequences. To do it further deepens the fucking Grand Canyon gorge of dependency, of the warped mime. It perpetuates the broken system, the matrix that's currently in place that had me get into the meetings in the first place. You can't do it without it being like, you can't do it. It's you're lying to yourself if you're like, I'm just going to tiptoe in. It's like, one of the guys in our program, Kenny, talks about Brer Fox and Tar Baby. It's an old story. Anyway, there's a character or whatever, and Brer Fox or whatever goes into the tar. I'm slaughtering this, but the point is, like, this thing sticks to you. It clings to you. You come out of it's stuck to your fur. It's all over you. It's like thistles in your shoelaces. You don't get to tap dance into this thing and come out. And I know that is my gift. You don't get to do it and be like, I didn't get caught. You hurt yourself deeply. And to the degree in which I engage in it and believe that lie, the next day I'm not okay with myself. And I really want some woman to validate me again at that deep, like that whole cycle's just spinning along.
Yep.
Right. The only freedom, reality at all costs. That's not reality either. I think it's the road less traveled is like reality at all costs. Acting out is not reality. It's not reality.
It's not reality.
And the only way I'm ever going to change truly, and Alex, I want to change, is to free fall and embrace reality.
Yep.
As consistently as I can.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. And, and if you don't have the consequences, well, then maybe you don't, maybe there are people that can watch porn and maybe they don't qualify.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my experience, but there are. I was always jealous. It's interesting. Like, I was always jealous because you hear this in the room sometimes, man. People be like, yeah, I woke up this morning and realized I think I probably got a problem with porn. So you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I asked for some help. I was always so jealous of those people. Now, that was never going to be my experience, though. My experience was never going to be like, you know what? I just woke up one morning and I felt so bad at what I've been doing and I want to stop. That would never be my experience. I needed the spiritual 2x4 to the back of the head in the form of my consequences to get me into recovery. And I had plenty of consequences before ever getting into before I ever got into recovery. I had plenty of consequences.
You see that clearly now.
Oh, I see that so clearly, and so I think that with these major consequences, we're blessed with this gift of desperation, right? You hear about this gift of desperation, right? I'm willing to go to any lengths to get this thing because I'm so sick and tired of living the way that I have been living for so many years that I got to do things differently. Got to.
Yep. Well said. Damn, Panda. 100 episodes? Man, and he's just closing it out with fire.
100th episode. I don't know, man. You got anything else you want to touch on?
I mean, I say it all the time, but it's true. Like, keep coming back, right? Wherever you're at in your journey, it may be hard. It may be difficult. It may seem like things aren't clear and you want to just give up. What the fucking is the point? That you're broken beyond repair. We talked about this. I mean, I'm just never going to get any better. This is a sad truth. I don't like this, but it's just reality. Again, this is my numbers. I'm throwing it out. I'm 52. I believe the bulk of my trauma, let's say, was just putting years on it, right? Like, let's say 10 to 15 years old or something. And then the brain gets formed, right? And I've been essentially working and trying to heal that since then. Okay. So I've been working and fighting and therapy and recovery for a longer period of time than I ever engaged in anything that we're talking about. I'm not bragging. That sucks. I mean, if somebody else has a different experience, like, cool, but this is just my journey, right? And a part of me sometimes can get into some self-pity and be like, what the fuck? I'm serious. Like, I'm going to live the rest of my natural life and die of natural causes before I reach some sort of like, you know what? I feel like it's pretty easy and it's just like stopped, And again, I don't stay in that place too long because that's just, reality is like, this is what it is and this is what it looks like. But it's a lot easier to get unhealthy than it is to work and heal.
100%.
That doesn't seem right. Same thing with medicating and blotting out and creating numbness can happen very quickly.
Very.
Constructive self-soothing and emotional regulation and healing never develops with that sort of speed and immediacy.
No,
just ever, right?
No,
it just doesn't.
It doesn't. Well said too, man. Like, because it doesn't. Because like, Jeff, you and I, when we walk out of this door, we are one decision away from being back in active addiction. One decision. Now, in order for us to get to where we're at today, it's taken us multiple decisions. The reason that I'm standing here is because of hard work. The reason I'm standing here today is because of hard work.
Right. And no doubt, and actions then taken in support of those decisions, which, I mean, it's keep coming back. I mean, it does work though. The healing, when you hit some plateau,
if you work it.
Well,
right.
That's correct.
So like,
correct.
Yeah.
I used to get, I tell you what, there was a AA guy many years ago, and I'm not sure, I'm not trying to cause a controversy here, but the AA program has the remember half measures avail us nothing.
So it was nil. I always love that.
Yeah. Our result was
word,
nil until we
nil.
like, oh, absolutely. That's true. But I said, and I wasn't trying to be a smartass, but it seemed like my experience supported this. I said, sometimes I think that my half measures have availed me half results. Like, again, I wasn't like, cool, right? I did not experience like nothing. I was like, I'm kind of like half in the boat. I keep coming back. I was blah, blah, blah. You know, again, it's not how you draw it up. It wasn't perfect, but it was like, okay, it was okay. And I'm approaching this from, if you feel shame, like, cause you're like, you know, you're half-assing it or something, that needs to be challenged, right? Where I'm going with that is it's okay. We're doing the best you can. We're not a robot. You're not.
That's so interesting because like at the beginning of my recovery, half measures were almost all that I had.
I'm sure you would see
right?
That way. So
so this thing evolves, right? So like my half measures today maybe look different than what maybe my half measures look like in the beginning. And in the beginning, you know, my half measures was the best that I could do.
Yeah, maybe they weren't half measures. They were like,
this is the best that I can
measures.
do.
Right.
You know, this was kind of brought up at one of our meetings recently of like, it was Sean that said it.
Yeah.
Man, I forget what he said, but it was so good. Yeah, I say that it was so good, but you had to forget it.
I think I know where you're going though. But I think he said
the best I can do.
Here's the truth. We are doing the best that we can do. I think he said, if we could be doing better and in a better place, right, in our recoveries, every one of us right now, in fact, would be there. I would be. I would not. I would be in a different place talking to you, Alex, right now. But this is where I am. It's a weird sort of little mental, right? But it is. If I could be doing better and actually had 2 more gears hidden over here beneath this piece of paper, that watch out, I'm on the Autobahn. I'm going to pass all you fuckers. But I'm just not doing it. I don't feel like doing it. Right? I said that. Did you hear a train?
Yeah. The train goes. Yeah.
That's me with those 2 gears, right?
Yeah.
But I say that because I need to hear myself say that because the shame that's still there is whispering, saying, "You could, and you ought to be somehow or something." Like you're not really doing your best. You're not doing your best. You could or should be better. You shouldn't be this uncomfortable being single right now, or something like that. If I could be better and not be uncomfortable being single or whatever it is, fill in the blank, I would just do that. So this is where I am today. This is where I am right now talking to you.
Yeah. Because at one point in time, acting out was the best that I could do.
Yeah.
That was the best. Acting out, that was the best that I could do.
I try hard to have a lot of compassion for especially newer guys who I'm just going to say this, I fully expect them to act out a ton. I fully expect them to act out all the time. I expect them not to tell me. I expect them to lie about it and hide it. I hope they don't, and I try to create an environment that's warm and supportive, and actually so they very quickly understand it's okay. It's not helpful and it hurts you, but it's okay to me. I love you. You don't hurt me when you act out. Yeah. In fact, I care about you. You'll never be that. It's their shame. Like you are going to reject me if I tell you I did this bad thing. And again, I'm like, guess what, sucker? Don't.
Nope.
Do it again tomorrow. Let's talk again. I love you. You know, like I don't tell. I don't tell if you do it again tomorrow. I should clarify. But I find getting separation from this behavior to be very difficult in the early stages, without question.
Yes.
Very
difficult, man.
Keep coming back.
Keep coming back, man. Jeff, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on.
It was my pleasure.
Appreciate it, man. Like this was cool. We're almost at 2 hours here. I just, I knew the conversation. I knew, and it always does, right? Yeah. Like I knew the conversation was going to flow, and I knew it was going to be here, man. I think we touched on a lot, and we could totally do. We could, I've got this nice piece of paper here, and we could go through bullet point by bullet point. But I think I think God was involved. We hit what we needed to hit here, and yeah, man. Cheers to thanks for celebrating the 100th with me, man.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it, man.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege to see you grow, to walk with you.
Yeah, man.
So I'm telling. I remember when you're like, I think I'm going to make a podcast or something. I don't think you talk like that. This is how Alex talks. I think I'm going to make a podcast.
I'm going to make a podcast. Jeff, what do you think about that?
It sounds a lot like your Tuesday night. Like, hey, it's Tuesday night. How about some lovey-dovey kisses?
Some little kisses?
Yeah. But and I think I've told you this. I was like, "Oh, that's cute. That's such a great idea." I didn't posh on it, but I didn't expect you to take the actions and for it. And like, dude, fantastic.
You did. Thanks for bringing that up, man. Because Yeah, and in the moment, you weren't like, "Oh, that's cute, man. Good luck." You're like, "All right, man, do it. Yeah, okay, cool."
But
And
I
then I
probably
remember
had
like
some misgivings, I'm sure.
I'm sure you did. And then I remember like like I don't know if and it doesn't matter, right? But I don't think that you really listened to it at first. And then I don't know if it was you were about to come on, and then you finally listened to it, and you're like, Alex, this is good, man.
It was really
This
good.
is really good,
Huh?
dude. Like, you're like, man, I was listening to this other like Rob Weiss's, and he was like, you were like, Alex, you do such a better job than he does. He like interrupts his guests and stuff, and
That felt really
you don't
good.
do that. Dude. Fuck yeah, it did, man. Are you kidding me?
Rob Weiss is
Yeah,
garbage.
dude. But yeah, and then you listen, and you're like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is great, Alex. Like, and I was like, oh, thanks, man. Cool.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
So yeah, man. Again, I just couldn't think of a better guest to have on for the 100th, man. So just with everything you've been through with me, and same with me to you too, man. Like it's funny because like I'm always like, fucking Jeff's been doing this thing on such a long, right? This sense of self again, right? Talking about the shame sense of self. I'm like, man, Jeff's been doing this a long time. Recently, I think you said something to me like, man, Alex, you're one of those you're one of those people in my life that like, guide me. And I'm thinking, what have I ever told you, Jeff, that like, what have I ever told you that blew your mind that you didn't already know? But I get to challenge that, right? I get to challenge that tape in myself and like, hey man, yeah. If you say that I mean a lot to you, then I'm going to believe you on that.
Good.
And, yeah, it feels good.
Amen.
So, but man, thank you so much. And as always, everybody, thank you so much. A little update though. I'm 2 weeks off the nicotine.
Woo!
It sucks. I'm trying to normalize it. The urges. Like I'll be hanging out with Beanie and I'll just be like, I want to fucking chew. I want to fucking chew. I'm just going to say it out loud. I want to chew real bad. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I'm just going to go get one. Like I'm not an adult and I can't just go do whatever I want to do. But I'm 2 weeks off. I'm proud of myself. It sucks. Yeah. But yeah, 2 weeks off. So as always, everybody keep coming back. It works if you work it and you are worth it. If anybody has any ideas for any topics or anything like that, please feel free to email me, nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, also too, if you're interested in coaching, put coaching in the subject line and feel free to email me. Jeff will be back on at some point in time. Yeah, again, as always, keep coming back. It works if you work it and you're worth it. We'll see you next time.